You have to take your user on this incredible journey without making it very obvious.
This is Velocitize Talks, and I'm Lauren Cox. Today, I'm with Abhii Dabas, CEO of Webpuppies and CEO and founder of Joblu.io. Welcome, Abhii. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much, Lauren, for having me.
Thank you. So, Abhii, why don't you tell our audience what is unique about Webpuppies?
Well, Webpuppies is an end-to-end IT consultancy. We work with large corporations, global companies, government agencies. Basically, they come to us and they say, how do we transform our business digitally? So we do a lot of strategy work for them, UI UX design for them. We do a lot of development. When I say development, everything from websites, web applications, mobile applications, IoT systems, AI powered engines, automation software, all those things. And what's interesting about Webpuppies is that it's been around for 22 years and we still try to learn every day. So we are driven by learning, growth, and sort of keeping pushing the boundaries basically.
Yeah. So you do a wide range of consultancy services. What's your favorite?
Well, we do enjoy UX a lot. We feel that that's what most organizations get wrong. The transformational effect that it has is really satisfying.
So you also teach on UX and UI, and you have a 5-star UX theory, correct?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, as they say. So I do teach, and basically after developing more than 2,000 websites and applications, we've sort of learned a few tricks of the trade. We've understood what are some of the things that work for brands and what are some of the things that don't. So the 5-star strategy is something that I just came up with so that students and young professionals remember it. I wasn't very excited about it, but basically what it says is that you have to take your user on this incredible journey without making it very obvious. So the first step is about evoking an emotion. So if you look at some of the world's biggest brands and you look at their websites, you'll see how they evoke an emotion. Even if they are the largest, they never talk about being the largest. They talk about what emotion they can evoke, whether it's happiness or hope or trust and all of those things. So and then once you have sort of told the user who you really are, then you want to build some trust. So the next star is numbers don't lie. So use numbers to highlight your strength, and then a lot of startups sometimes that we work with, a lot of government agencies who don't want to highlight the numbers so much, they say, oh, but we don't have that many numbers to talk about. And then we say, if you don't have enough numbers, if you have not completed 5,000 projects, for instance, you can talk about how big the opportunity is. So numbers really paint a picture. So once you've evoked an emotion, once you make sure that numbers don't lie, then the third star says, don't tell me, show me. And that's what organizations must do. They should get their customers, their employees, whoever they are impacting to come and talk about that. The fourth star is what's in it for me. So make your website or application or app, whatever you're building, as user-centric as possible. And finally, funnily, so many organizations follow these steps in some order or the other, and they forget the fifth star.
What's
and the fifth star is conversion.
Conversion.
So you've done all the hard work, and then you can't just relax. You have to make sure whatever product or service you're selling, the user actually comes in and buys, or at least interacts, whether you want them to subscribe to a newsletter, whether you want them to buy a product or a service or contact you, at least make sure that you have that. Because not only will it be ineffective, but the user will feel lost. Like, oh, I love this company, but what am I supposed to do next? We work with a lot of companies who spend a lot of money on their marketing campaigns, and one of the things that they don't get right is, what is your website's objective, primary objective? So I'll give you an example. So we were working with this government organization. They work with a lot of pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies, and they co-developed vaccines, and they co-developed a lot of these instruments that are used in labs, and obviously it was quite relevant in the last few years, right?
Yes.
So they wanted to build this website. We looked at their current website and we saw there's so many of these products that they are selling, or at least they are showcasing. And we spoke with them. We had a few working sessions with them, and we said, but what is it that you want your users to experience? And so nobody had ever asked that question. So I said, am I supposed to buy these products or these COVID tests or vaccines on your website? The answer was no. So what am I supposed to do? So after a few rounds of discussions and deliberations, everyone finally had this epiphany that what they were selling was partnerships. So there was no need for those products on the website. All they needed was for all these companies to come partner with them.
Yeah.
And so the user journey started from a point of view of why you should be our partners.
Like building that partnership, building that trust.
Absolutely. And then the products were being sold by those individual companies. But what this organization was really good at was building those partnerships, facilitating the growth of these partner companies.
Do you use examples of companies that are doing it right?
There are so many companies. If you look at Coca-Cola, for instance, when we talk about evoking emotions, they do a beautiful job, right? They don't talk about what's in the bottle. They talk about the impact. Nike does a fabulous job. Starbucks does a fabulous job. So in terms of evoking emotions, if you look at a lot of the SaaS companies, they do a fabulous job of highlighting their strength through numbers. If you look at companies like TripAdvisor, they do a lot of user-generated content, and obviously they use content to make their websites very user-centric. So of course, there are so many wonderful examples, that a marketer or a marketing director can learn from, but some of them do one part of the UX journey right, some of them don't.
Yeah.
And so and again, it's not that everyone has to follow the 5 stars to the T. One thing that's really evolved in the last few years is how organizations are not just targeting their customers, but they are targeting potential employees. So that has been a big change that we've noticed in the last few years, and they are trying really hard to come across as companies that are interesting, fun places to work at, and that's becoming quite integral.
You've recently developed an application, joblu.io.
Yes.
And how are you finding that it's really helping in the pandemic, maybe versus traditional recruiting?
So we are in a very interesting position right now globally. If you look at any employer, if you speak with them, they will always say, we can't find the right candidates. And if you speak with the candidates and job seekers, they say, we can't find the right job. So it's definitely not a numbers problem, because we saw that, organizations were attracting talent in the highest numbers possible. Tech companies were growing phenomenally. And job seekers, obviously, the population of the world has never been higher.
Yes.
So what is the problem here? There are a lot of things that have changed in society, but the changes are not reflecting in the way people are hired. So for instance, job seekers and employers are now equals, which wasn't the case, right? So since you mentioned, I work a lot with students and, the student communities, young professionals. So for all these years, I've just been listening to them complaining about how they don't want to work on CVs, resumes. They send resumes, nobody ever opens those resumes. They get ghosted a lot, and employers get ghosted too. And for some bizarre reason, that recruitment hasn't kept up with the world that we live in. We find our life partners through dating apps these days, but we are still sending resumes.
There's marketing trends all over, especially around e-commerce.
Yes.
And so WordPress is heavily utilized WooCommerce.
Yes.
Have you been taking your clients on an e-commerce journey recently, and what does that look like? Are you looking at Woo? Are you looking at different e-commerce platforms?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because there are so many examples to share. So one of the largest F&B companies in this part of the world, in Southeast Asia, they approached us. They were our existing clients. And so, when the pandemic hit and suddenly everyone was sitting at home and, the world was in lockdown zone, they came to us and they said, we don't have e-commerce. For a really large company, maybe hundreds of millions or maybe $1 billion in revenue, they did not have e-commerce. And because, the belief was people would come into our stores, our restaurants, and, they will enjoy a good meal, which was happening. And so we worked with them and we built their e-commerce in 9 days. And we didn't get much sleep for those 9 days. But immediately from the next day onward, we saw, the revenue numbers were so strong. So that really opened up a new revenue channel for them. So the question that you asked about WooCommerce, I think we've seen a shift, definitely, because a few years back, clients were talking about only one thing, which was scalability, and they were going for licensed products, and they were going for a lot of e-commerce platforms, with all kinds of complex integrations. And, we worked on a lot of those projects. We worked with clients, Fortune 500 companies, and we built these e-commerce systems for them. And we realized that, the support, the community was not very active. So there were so many unanswered questions. There were so many bugs. Some of the integrations could not happen. We could not find a single person, after interviewing 500 people who could fix some of those specific problems. So there were so many challenges. The data was not syncing properly with the client's ERP. What is the single source of truth? Where are the products being pulled out, from? And for instance, some of the products were weight specific. So we've tried a whole lot of, I don't want to name the CMSs, but we've tried a lot of these platforms, and we found that there were a lot of challenges. So off late, even if the reputation initially for WooCommerce was, it's very easy to do it, and so maybe it's not as scalable, but I think that's so far away from the truth. So for the last few clients that we worked with, we encouraged them to use WooCommerce, and we've implemented many sites, and they are working really well. And also because clients need to be nimble.
Yeah.
So for instance, their teams change. So for instance, by the time you get somebody to be specializing in a certain CMS, attrition rates are high, that team moves on, and suddenly they have to restart that whole process of training those people again, and business really suffers. Whereas, as you know, with WordPress, WooCommerce, it's so easy.
So you've described Joblu.io as where Tinder meets TikTok, but for jobs. So do you think your matches are going to work?
Well, funnily, I'm not the one who describes it that way. Some of the users have. What we've done is we've taken the ease of, or the fun of a dating app.
Yeah.
We've taken the expression of a social network like a TikTok or an Instagram. Yeah. And we've, obviously taken a lot of other things in terms of how you're able to filter or assess and all of those things. So, but what we've done is seen how people lead their lives outside of jobs, and so why can't that fun, why can't that, ease be implemented in something which is a job-seeking platform?
So I love to finish the interview with a few questions.
Sure.
What would you recommend for a podcast or a book right now? Are you reading something that's that you're finding very interesting?
Well, I'm one of those people who starts my day with a podcast. There are so many that are wonderful, but I really am enjoying how I built this. The Guy Raz.
NPR.
Yeah, NPR. It's really good. You see how these companies have evolved. Some of the biggest tech companies or biggest brands, and what their journey has been like, and the founder's journey as well. And so we share it with our teams. Because we have a few ventures and a few startups, and it's always so exciting to see that we are not the only ones going through these problems. They've all been through, similar problems, and how they overcame those challenges, how they made it fun, right? Yeah. So that's something that we are focusing a lot on as well, to make work, very fulfilling.
Yeah, awesome. So podcasts, do they keep you inspired? Like when you get up in the morning, is that the thing that really inspires you?
Well, I actually wake up quite inspired in any case, right? So my job is to inspire other people. Every time, I feel their energies are dipping, I have to tell them and remind them why we are doing what we are doing. We became very selective with the kind of work that we were doing. We started being very selective with the kind of clients that we were working with. So now, for instance, with Joblu, we are doing it because we feel that we have a possibility of impacting millions of lives, maybe hundreds of millions of lives. So I keep reminding the team, and I mean, not that they need that many reminders, but, so I wake up knowing that, at least at this point in my career, we are doing something that can be impactful, that can impact the lives of people across the world, not just in the US or North America or Southeast Asia, but globally, and we are working towards addressing those imbalances. So yeah, that's very important for us. So I wake up motivated, but at the same time, it has to be effortless, right? So we have to walk the talk. I keep telling the team, and that's been a part of my journey. So for instance, if you had asked me the same question 2 years back, I would be like, grow at any cost, even if you're miserable. And I've realized, like millions of other people during the pandemic, that what's important is that you should absolutely enjoy and love what you're doing. And so every morning when we meet our teams, I ask them, how happy are you today? So are you feeling the pressure? And I said, if you are, transfer the pressure to the rest of us, but just enjoy the process. So, that fulfillment, like I spoke about, is a huge part of our lives these days.
Oh, thanks, Abhii. This is Abhii Dabas, CEO of Webpuppies and CEO and founder of Joblu.io.